Etsy news. What's been happening in the world of Etsy? Well, there's quite a lot, mainly because I skipped last week again. So, obviously, I'm going to cover a little bit of the quarter 3 report. I'll dig into that some more. But Etsy has been sneaking out little updates that they don't seem to be announcing anywhere. And yeah, you just have to be keeping your eye out in the forums and everywhere to find out what these are. So, no doubt I've missed some, so let me know. But let's dig into it. There's a lot to get through here. Firstly, as I say, this is the last 2 weeks. So for everyone outside the US, we now have global, domestic, and US specific pricing. So we have the option, we used to have domestic and global pricing, and now if you click on from your listing and price and inventory, if you click on domestic and global, you get UK domestic shipping, you get global, and an option for a different price for US shipping. This is supposedly to help with the tariffs. Although Etsy in the quarterly report did suggest they don't really care a whole lot because the tariffs didn't hurt them particularly, because for every international seller who can sell something, there's a US seller. So yeah, international sellers are slightly hung out to dry. But we have the option for this. It's not perfect by any means, because it means you are putting up your prices by this amount, which then means your tariff price is charged on the price of your sales price. So you put on that price, you increase the price to the US, that increases your tariff price, and yeah, vicious circle, but at least they did something, so it's kind of good. This was in maybe about 10 days. Don't, my light is thinking of giving up the ghost. About 10 days ago, someone mentioned this. What they were finding, they used snippets. They had to do custom work with customers, and they had a large volume of orders coming in. So they have their own snippets for messaging the customer to get the details from the customer. And their messages were automatically muted by Etsy's system. So, when communication patterns match those commonly associated with spam, and this is even what the Etsy chat said. When you send messages asking for measurements to different buyers, the system may have detected a pattern that looked like spam, even though you are doing exactly what sellers should do, communicating with your buyers. So you're doing what you're supposed to do, but of course, there's another automated system for telling if messages are spam. Now, I like it that Etsy's trying to catch spam, but wouldn't it be easy, if any rate, not to include in that pattern first messages to a customer, someone who's just purchased from you? You should be allowed to message about the transaction. So, yeah, yet again, Etsy launches something and hasn't fully thought it through. That this totally annoys me. Etsy, if you want someone to run by your launches just to pick up what's going to be the problems if you do that, give me a call. That's so going to happen. Um, and here's another one. People might have noticed this in your messages. Next to a customer, well, Etsy is testing a badge to help you prioritize messages from the top 15% of US buyers by spend in the last 12 months. So some of your messages underneath their name might come up with this little badge saying top Etsy buyer. Now, we still have to prioritize we still have to answer your messages in the first 24 or 48, well, 24 hours, let's be honest. But we're getting a wee badge to show this. And again, people are not happy with this because, buyers, do you want every seller knowing your buyer behavior? Weird. Again, this wasn't particularly well thought through, but let me know what you think. I had a customer with this. To be fair, this is a weird one. It did set my mind at ease a little bit. Quite often when I work with a customer, because it takes a little bit of back and forward and a bit of time for custom work, so they might not have put the correct address in when they purchased something, because for whatever reasons, a couple of weeks later, they might want it sent to a different address. Now, Etsy is very rubbish with this and doesn't let them actually change the address in an order, and tends to recommend that you cancel the order and do it again and whatever. I generally, good customer service, and if it's through the messages and they've got a good reason for it, yeah, I don't worry about it. But it did sort of give me a little bit extra good feeling that my customer is a top buyer. Actually, my customer was a UK customer, and it's saying the top 15% of US buyers. So yeah, they haven't even set that up properly. Yeah, but anyway, just the point. It did make me even more confident that I thought, well, okay, they're a big buyer as well. They know what they're doing, hopefully. And yeah, lovely customer, no problems at all. But still not a fan of this. Okay, is this an about time thing or is it not? You're invited to be amongst the first group of sellers to try instant transfers, a faster, more flexible way to access your Etsy earnings. Use your funds when it matters most to restock material, cover last minute expenses, or reinvest in your shop. Instant transfers allow you to move funds to your bank account within 30 minutes, access your funds 24/7, even on weekends and holidays, transfer up to $500 a day for just a 1% fee capped at $1. They said capped at $100. To get started, blah de blah de blah. Now, isn't that great? You can get your money really quickly. Now, I'm going to talk about from a UK point of view. I believe it's not necessarily the same everywhere else, but I'm going to say how I'm seeing it. Back in the day, I am that old. Back in the day, on Etsy, you got paid through PayPal, which from my point of view meant the moment you made the sale, your money was available in PayPal. Well, the moment Etsy cleared it, but immediately the money was available in PayPal and you could take that PayPal balance anywhere to spend it. You could spend it on eBay, on all sorts of websites. But not only that, in the UK, we've had instant digital fund withdrawal transfers for a very long time. So, right from the start of Etsy, like 20 years ago, I could have my money in my PayPal account, go into PayPal and say, send that to my bank, and it would be transferred for free near enough immediately. It says within 30 minutes. Basically, I've always checked a few times, and the time it took to click send the money to my bank and then to log into my internet banking and have a look, it was always there. It was always usable. It was instant. And then Etsy brought out Etsy payments, Etsy checkout, Etsy's own way of handling money. And things got worse. It was less good. It cost more and it took longer to get your money. So now, after a few years of this enshittification system, isn't this wonderful? Etsy's going to give us back the ability to instantly withdraw our money. Oh, except they're going to charge us for it. So, yeah, this sounds great, but for some reason, they are charging us money for something that's been standard for decades in the UK, that we can instantly, freely withdraw our funds to our bank account. But anyway, Etsy's found another way to make extra revenue off of sellers. Let me know what you think. As I say, different countries may be different, and this may be standard, this may be above standard, this may be absolutely cool for you, but for me, this is not really an improvement. Anyway, okay, when I made this slide, I thought, cool, I've had some other thinkings now that I've looked into it some more. But on the banner at the start at the top of Etsy, we now have a shop local section. This used to be a thing. They're saying new. This used to be a thing on Etsy. I found plenty of local shops. It was great fun. How I'm thinking it might not be quite so cool when I realised when I went into it, it's a little more specific. So I'm in a large town next to a very, very large city. Like, I can walk to the city from here. It's a wee while, but I have walked into the city. It's close. However, if somebody in the city clicks shop local, I'm not in the city. So this is good for sellers who are in a big city or a big town. This is not good for rural sellers. I think there's more ways you can dig into it and look around, but the shop local, when I looked into it, was showing local in my town. So, but Etsy, from Etsy's point of view, it can, if it's good for customers, then it's good, but it might not be good for sellers who live a little more remotely. Let me know what you think. I'm probably rambling. I am rambling. For people in the UK, I just checked the shipping, and although it's blooming expensive now, it's gone up again. So check your prices. By the way, that's more dear than it was. But we now have a whole load more options with Etsy shipping labels. Just in the UK, I don't think US shipping is back again for us, but we have a whole lot more options. Yeah, Ivory, I ain't touching that. They're still, Ivory's still very hit and miss, but we have some more options, getting some tracked options, and yeah, it's nice to have some more options. It used to just be Royal Mail First Class, or I think it was just tracked. Yeah, the track 24. We only had like one or two options. Now there's bunches of them, so that was good. When you're editing or creating a new listing, Etsy has added some title advice, a little even more to their AI tool here. They're giving us some title advice in your listing. Everybody's advice seems to be about the same, and it's awful. So the first thing I saw of this, I've seen loads more now, and you can see the one in my shop, but the top here, try to avoid using the following words when crafting titles so they're clear and effective. Now that sentence is clear, isn't it? Try to avoid using the following words. So NICU, I don't know what that is, but it's saying that word, try to avoid repetition. Okay, so try to avoid using these words. Try shortening your title, and this is the first time Etsy's ever given an actual number of words. They've said 2 to 3 phrases in the past. Keep it between 3 and 14 words for readability. So what we're just going to come to there is my corgi butt needle felted paperclip bookmark. So what, that's 5 or 6 words just to say what my item is. Even felt dog bookmark, but yeah, 3 words. I am a proponent of short titles, and that's too short. But anyway, it gets worse. So when I looked at the title on my dog bookmark listing, try to avoid using the following words when crafting titles so they're clear and effective: dog and bookmark. Now, I know what they mean here. Well, I think I know what they mean. No, I know what they mean here. In my title, I had used, I think it was like custom dog bookmark, and then dog lover's gift, and giant paperclip bookmark, or something like that. So the word dog was twice in the title, and the word bookmark was twice in the title. That is unnecessary, but for me it gave clarity of what it was. I couldn't nicely find a way to put it all into one sentence. So if you're going to say it's a bookmark on a giant paperclip and it's a dog bookmark, sometimes you have to say it more than once. So shoot me. However, that doesn't say avoid duplicating. It doesn't need to try to avoid repetition, but it's very clear that first sentence, try to avoid using the following words when crafting titles. So it doesn't say try to avoid duplicating the following words. It's just try to avoid using the following words. Again, Etsy, if you want to hire me just to check out on these things, as soon as I opened it, as soon as anybody opened it, they're like, either people who don't know are panicking and taking these important words out of their titles, or the rest of us are like, seriously, Etsy, it's a dog bookmark. What else are you supposed to call it? You're an idiot. So Yet again, Etsy's released an AI tool to help take the effort out of creating our listings and doing our SEO. And yet again, if I followed its advice, that would absolutely nuke my listing, because how would the robot know that my listing was a dog bookmark if I didn't tell it? And I have tested, and I will test again if you want me to, but I have tested that no matter what Etsy's saying, for our stuff to rank in, for our stuff to be even ranked by the first pass, to even be matched, you need to have the words in your title and your tags. Don't care what Etsy's saying. It's not ranking at all if you don't have them, or that's my experience so far. Okay, yeah, make it stop. As a buyer, when you go into some Etsy shops, some people are seeing this. 5 years on Etsy, that's fine. We've seen that. Tell me how long it's been here. 95% or more orders dispatched on time. Yeah, speedy deliveries. Yeah, we've seen that. Yep. Great, whatever. Popular shop. 104 orders this month. That's giving data right out there on the main page that's going to annoy people. And I know it's going to annoy people because I've heard them complain. Yeah, that annoys people. So yet again, Etsy didn't think about whether this was going to be a useful thing. But here was a better one. When searching for things like ceramic mugs, rather than showing all ceramic mugs, it was filtering. It was giving a selection of artfully made finds. So they are starting to work on ceramic mugs. Was one of the pages that Josh was talking about as being terrible in the past. In the past, it's been flagged up for basically being hundreds of the exact same mug, saying they're handmade pottery when clearly they're just shipped in from Temu and 40 different shops are doing it. So hopefully this is a way of narrowing that down so that there's less of the same thing. Hopefully. um, hey, Etsy Insider, thank you, Starla, for sharing this one with me. They have updated the Etsy Insider beta, and it's probably not worth it for most people, but anyway. So your rewards, benefits and rewards, save on shipping, get up to $6 off shipping on all $15 and above orders. Many orders ship free. So if you remember, Etsy was first of all trying to push all sellers to do free shipping, and then it rolled back from that. And then for the Etsy Insider, this was a benefit that people who were signed up for the Etsy Insider were going to get free shipping. And then Etsy realized that Etsy can't afford to do free shipping, so get up to $6 off shipping if the item is over $15 or more. So yeah, interesting. Earn 5% in Etsy credit on every order. Use anytime, it never expires for members. Okay. Enjoy member-only offers and special perks. We don't really know what those are. And we're seeing the prices. There's two options. You can buy an annual plan, paying a one-off $72, which is $6 a month. Or you can buy every 3 months at $24 or $8. It works out to $8 a month. So you can't even sign up just for 1 month. You can't just sign up for your holiday shopping. Well done, Etsy. Okay, for those that missed it, and I will dive deeper into this. Sorry, I've been so slow with everything, but the quarter 3 Etsy financial report was out last 2 weeks ago. Well, 10 days ago. And as usual, I've pulled up all the data. So first of all, my famous graph, Etsy revenue and GMS from first quarter 2017 to current. The revenues in millions and GMS is in billions. And yeah, GMS is blue, revenues Etsy Orange, because that's the money that Etsy takes. And what this means, GMS is the amount of money made by people buying things on Etsy. So that's the amount of sales. And revenue is how much Etsy gets its grubby mitts on. And you might notice a little something about that graph. As I say, they're on different scales, but they switched over and the Etsy line seems to be getting higher and higher. So, well, in fact, we can see from 2023 to now, the GMS, that's definitely a downward trajectory. Whereas the revenue, that seems to be going up the way. How puzzling. Anyway, and this is what they call the take rate, the percent of the GMS that Etsy gets as revenue. So I decided to plot that because Etsy gives us that money and those numbers. And I'm seeing a trend. It was slowly rising, and then just after the bubble of COVID burst, the bubble of COVID, but for Etsy it was a bubble. It was doing really well. It got a big chunk in new sales, but after that slowed down and investors were a bit annoyed. Oh look, that trajectory of the take rate seems to have increased. So Etsy is taking more money per how much is sold. So they're getting more money off of us guys. Here is other graph, which is GMS per seller. So how much is being made on Etsy divided by the number of sellers. Now, the numbers that Etsy has been reporting are for Etsy, the whole company. So that includes all the other companies that they own. It's just two now. They just sold Reverb. So it's Depop and Etsy. I also got the figures for Etsy alone. The trends are similar, but the figures for Etsy alone for Q3 2025, the average a seller makes on Etsy $442. Now, yes, there are many people who are not making much. Now, this is what Etsy call active sellers. We don't know how active they have to be, but they're considered active sellers. So it's not people that have opened their shop 15 years ago and never made a sale, probably. And obviously there are people making way more than this, but this is, you just divide one by the other and it's the average, and it's always pitiful. And basically for this bar chart, if you don't know, we want the line to be as high as possible. Obviously we want more money, and that is trending pretty low. Q2 was the lowest it's been since 2017, and Q3 is really not far behind it. So the ratio of buyers to sellers, again, we want this line to be high, and it's not. The ratio of buyers to sellers on Etsy alone is 15.75. So for every one seller on Etsy, there is 15 buyers. That's it. That's not very much. I don't know what to say. So I'm leaving it with a little bit of hope. This is the sites tool from eRank to show you the reach. I've looked in other countries as well. The graph is showing the same, but the reach in the US of people coming to Etsy, and after it really dropping down and seeming to plateau, it is finally in the upwards trajectory. We are almost starting to get to the holiday shopping time. Almost. Anyway, that's it for me, unless I missed things, which I'm sure I did. Let me know what you've seen, and thank you all so much, and I'll see you next time.